Hey everybody, welcome into the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. This is National Signing Day, so it's a little bit of a practice report brought to you by Byers Auto. It's a little bit of talking stuff. It's a little bit of everything as we get ready to head down to Arizona for the Fiesta Bowl. Ohio State in the midst of signing their 2020 recruiting class. So normally I would start with you, Tim, but today this is Berm's day. This is what he works for all year.
I defer 3 minutes to the senator from
I'm glad that
how do you sum it
Toledo.
So far so good, I guess, is the way to view it for Ohio State. Everything the Buckeyes thought would happen today and the first day of the early signing period. And that's important. People consistently say early signing day. It's not a signing day, okay? This is a 3-day window for people to sign, and that's why Phillips, the 4-star defensive back from California, has not signed yet. That will happen tomorrow. It's his birthday. It's always been the plan to sign on Thursday for Clark. So
what if his birthday had been the 28th? What would he have done?
Well, he probably would not have waited because he couldn't sign then, Tim. But I appreciate the insight. No, I'm kidding. But the reality here, Clark Phillips has a decision to make, Ohio State or Utah. He took a trip to Utah last week. This is all about Jeff Hafley for him. It's all about feeling like he doesn't know who his coach is going to be. He feels like there's some consistency at Utah that maybe he can hold on to because they don't change over their coaches the way Ohio State does. 4 defensive back coaches in 4 years for the Buckeyes. But
that's
today,
such a weird thing, though, to want, because like I get that Utah is a great program, and I don't mean to ruin your flow here, but
it's okay.
We went and met Clark Phillips. He is a very bright guy. I have a lot of respect for the way he carried himself and the things that he said. But if you're wanting coaching continuity, I don't know where that should rank on. That wouldn't rank on my priority list.
Not in modern day.
Because he also talked about
modern day football,
to win championships, to have life after football. I'm not saying Utah can't offer these things, but Ohio State, if they want you, they are one of 3-4 programs in the country that are on a completely different level.
Yeah, I mean, I understand from a human standpoint the panic or the concern that he has, because we talk all the time, and you always hear people say, "Don't commit to a school," or "Don't commit to a coach, commit to a school." But you can say that, but you talk to one coach the whole time.
Yeah,
sure.
And that coach is the guy that works with you and talks with you throughout your career. And it's difficult for kids to have 4 coaches in 4 years like the defensive backs at Ohio State have had to do. But newsflash, all those defensive backs are still going to the NFL.
Yeah.
So, if that's the goal, you think that Ryan Day and the Buckeyes can overcome that. And, that is what they're going to look at Thursday. Today's Wednesday. Everything went as perfectly as they could. They signed everyone they thought they were going to today after learning of Cameron Martinez's decision to wait until February. And then they added the second-ranked quarterback in the country in C.J. Stroud. So it's a winning day for the Buckeyes.
But what if it's actually 3 defensive backs coaches in 4 years with a break in the middle?
Whoa. Listen, that can change things, but how
I didn't even comment, but I heard all that dead air there. I should have jumped in.
Yeah.
Obviously, the train has continued for Ohio State defensive backs getting to the National Football League, which is everybody's, I think, a lot of guys desire when they first sign at Ohio State or a major college. They think they're going to play in the NFL. A lot of them do from Ohio State, but we all know that Ryan Day, just like he hired Jeff Hafley, has some big-time names in mind. As you pointed out on my podcast this week, they would like to lure Kerry Combs back to the fold, a guy who's been in the NFL for 2 years, if that's your desire. It's where Jeff Hafley came from. It's where Kerry Combs might come from, if in fact that comes to fruition. But yeah, the most impressive thing that I saw that happened today was C.J. Stroud electing to sign with Ohio State after Jack Miller had been committed for all this time and signed with Ohio State. It was so important that they get 1 quarterback with this class, and as Ryan Day pointed out, very important to them that they get 2 to fill up the room again with 4.
Yeah.
And we're talking about Justin Fields, Gunnar Hoke, I'm talking about next year, and those 2 guys, scholarship quarterbacks. And the fact that they could get Stroud the way they did just spoke volumes of what the national team, the national program that this program has become. As I like, retort when people start talking about, well, they only signed so many from Ohio or whatever. And I go, when you recruit nowadays, there are no dotted lines on the map.
Right.
A lot of people like to put them there just for convenience of pigeonholing. But this team comes from almost all 4 corners of the country. And it's crazy when you got a guy from Seattle, a guy from Cucamonga, California, and from the East Coast, et cetera, in the middle of this country. I mean, it's crazy. This class is as deep on paper as almost any they've ever signed.
And I want to go back to just tie a bow on that, Kerry Combs situation. And Berm and I had talked about this last week, and how quickly could they make a move? Do they put somebody in place so that they could call and finish up signing day and reassure Clark Phillips? At this point, Clark Phillips has his decision that he's going to make. He can wait until February if he wanted to. I think.
Well, he's an early enrollee, and that's the thing for Clark that really drives this, is that his whole decision is based on the fact that he has to be on a college campus in 2.5 weeks.
Yeah, I guess my point was, like, if he's that adamant about doing it, then maybe, and Kerry Combs or Jeff Hafley, if he doesn't want to wait and find out, he still knows all the other information about Ohio State. I'm not here to make a crystal ball. That's your deal. But when it comes to Cam Martinez and his decision, he wasn't going to enroll early.
Right.
He can wait. And
I do the exact same thing.
And when it comes to the three of us reporting on the way this story is going to play out, replacing Jeff Hafley, there doesn't need to be a sense of urgency at this point. The signing period has begun. Ohio State has its class almost entirely intact. Mm-hmm. Kerry Combs is finishing out his duties with the Tennessee Titans. They're not going to be. This is what Berm has done some reporting on this, that they're going to wait until Kerry Combs makes a decision. They are not pursuing any other coach for that position right now other than him. He is still the top priority. So
I have the football back.
Oh.
And I asked
if people didn't like when we had microphones, they're going to really love
when
this.
we were at the mesh point there, I wanted the football back to make this one point, as Brian Day made in his press conference today. He didn't overtly say this, but this is Ryan Day's defense. Yeah. This is the vision
He
Ryan
said
Day
it a couple times this week.
Ryan Day had for this defense, and he went out and got coaches that were going to coach it. Greg Madison, not to be discounted at all. Greg Madison's going nowhere that I know of. Al Washington Jr., Ryan Day kind of left it emphatically known that he's not going anywhere because no lateral moves, in his mind.
Yeah.
And he will find a defensive backs coach that worships at the same altar of the way they play defense this year. A little bit of press man, a little bit of zone, rolling guys, rolling a corner to the safety to the edge. Everything that they incorporated this year, that guy is going to fit that bill. So whoever they end up with, and Kerry Combs, like you said, is kind of the odds-on favorite for a lot of people, but they're not going to go away from what they're doing on defense.
Yeah. If I can, from a recruiting standpoint, if they don't know that Kerry Combs is the guy today, it doesn't matter if Kerry Combs is the guy until January 17th at this point, because that's when recruiting can start again. So if Clark Phillips signs with Ohio State and trusts Ryan Day, and that's what the Buckeyes are counting on, great. If he signs with Utah, great, good luck. And the Buckeyes will spend the next month evaluating other defensive back prospects around the country, seeing who didn't sign today or this week. And then they will know by the time that they can actually recruit again who the coach is going to be.
Yeah.
Kerry Combs, by that point, if the Titans are out of the NFL playoff picture, he'll be available, and then they can move forward. So I know the people want to panic because it's just what happens, because we live in that world where everything needs to be now. But it's not going to be now. And if Clark Phillips doesn't want to sign with Ohio State because he doesn't know who that coach is going to be, nothing Ohio State is going to do is going to change it. As you said, he committed to Ohio State because of all those other things, and it wasn't just Jeff Hafley, despite the fact that playing for Jeff Hafley had a big part in it. So all those other things are still here. If he doesn't want to be a part of it, I can assure you, and maybe it sounds flippant, but Ohio State is going to be fine. The Buckeyes will find another good defensive back or two. I think they still need to find another one, even if they sign Clark Phillips and Cam Martinez. I still think they need another one in this class, and I think they still would have sought one because of the expectation that Shaun Wade is leaving. Mm-hmm. So
he needs to pass the ball.
There's stuff that's happening. There's stuff that's happening that is going to take place in the next few weeks. But I wanted to circle back to.
Well, here's the other thing for him. Like, these guys know that Jeff Hafley was not going to be their coach forever.
Right. They knew
he was probably only going to be their coach for 1 year.
Right.
So
summarizing,
I'm not trying to, give Clark Phillips any information he doesn't already know or to tip the scales. I'm just saying that's the situation.
Yeah.
We don't need to talk anymore.
No, I wanted to talk about C.J. Stroud.
I'm going to. It's the practice report brought to you by Buyers Auto.
Neat.
And he's talking stuff over here. They got two.
Oh.
Okay, Jack Miller.
Yeah.
Whatever ups and downs, he never wavered in his commitment,
Never.
even when he was hurt, even when there was this talk about two QBs. C.J. Stroud, we went to get to know him last month in California, and he was not intimidated at all by the possibility of two guys going head-to-head for that spot. We don't need to go project this 2 or 3 years down the road.
We can project it 2 or 3 months down the road, and that's really when it starts, and I can't wait.
It's going to start when they enroll, and this thing is going to be on. And Gunnar Hoke, he's really not panned out quite the same way that anybody thought. He's still going to have another year in the system and a chance to improve. But
you saw the jump that Chris Chugginoff made in his second year.
Yep.
I learned so much about Jack Miller and C.J. Stroud in these last few hours, honestly, because what you've gained is an understanding of who they are as competitors, and that you can talk all the fluff you want on Twitter and Instagram. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm not scared of this. But to put your name on the dotted line, to plan to move 2,000 miles away, to know that you're going to come into a situation where you're not competing to be a starter, you're competing to be a backup quarterback, maybe even a third-string quarterback. You don't know. If Gunnar Hoke makes that leap, I mean, the Buckeyes would still prefer to have a fifth-year senior be the backup next year than a true freshman. But, man, you just learned so much about who these guys are, because there are so many other situations around the country where they could have walked in. C.J. Stroud has been told nothing for the last week other than Jake Fromm's going to leave Georgia. Jake Fromm's going to leave Georgia, and you can come in and compete to be the starter. And he still said to himself, you know what, I could go to Georgia and be the starting quarterback for SEC championship contender, playoff contender, as a true freshman.
Which is not true, because he was not going to do that.
But, I mean, you never know. They don't have anybody else. And he still decided, I want to be developed by Ryan Day. And when it comes down to it, bottom line, C.J. Stroud picked Ohio State because he trusts that Ryan Day will make him a great quarterback.
Yeah, I think C.J. Stroud is attracted by Ohio State being one of the elite top 3 programs in the country right now. Mm-hmm. And when I say top 3, I'm talking about Clemson, Alabama, and Ohio State in no particular order from a talent stockpile standpoint. One of these teams every year is going to emerge as long as present leadership is running the show. And what I'm impressed by, when you watch C.J. Stroud's highlights, holy smokes. Jack Miller has great highlights also. But, I mean, the quarterback room. But, you heard me ask Ryan Day that did you, in some ways, ask these guys for, like, at least a 2-year commitment, because, we saw Justin Fields leave Georgia after not even 1 year. I mean, he wasn't even there a full 12 months. And these days, man, with the transfer portal out there, it is a real thing, and it comes calling every year. And, these guys owe it to themselves to commit to someplace for 2 years. Joe Burrow did it for 3. Yeah. And look where he did. He just won the Heisman Trophy. Just think about that. Coming out of high school, the only big-time school that offered him, really, was Ohio State. And this guy just won the Heisman Trophy. How many people were wrong? It's unbelievable.
Well, I mean, Joe Burrow was right about himself, because he
had
the patience.
He sure did.
To go through 3 years, to get a degree, put all that time and effort with Mickey Marotti. And I'm not going to – this is another thing. Like, we're getting so far down the road.
I'm going to say this. I'm going to cut you off because it's important I say this. For a quarterback to leave a school after a year is a terrible thing to do, and nobody worth their salt would ever do it except for Justin Fields, who obviously proves everyone wrong. There's no way anyone else would ever leave after a year and be successful anywhere else, because
what a tailor-made situation.
Except for Justin Fields.
But he walked into a tailor-made situation. Unbelievable.
My point was that Ohio State now has another example of what 3 years or even 1 year of Ryan Day working with Joe Burrow and 3 years of Mickey Marotti working with him, how that can help you, even if you don't ever become the starting quarterback in Ohio State. And that's why I was saying that Saturday night at the Heisman ceremony was such a huge win for Ohio State, not just because 3 guys in the top 6.
4.
That's –
well, I mean, I guess Burrow that we're not counting.
Yeah, I'm not counting that one. Okay. That's like a 3.5 or, cut it in half, whatever. But they get those 3 guys that are on the team. That's a big win. And then Joe Burrow walks right over to Ryan Day, gives him a hug, walks over to Mickey Marotti, and then talks about them multiple times in his acceptance ceremony. Ohio State's not taking credit for what he became, but they could if they wanted to, and maybe down the road that story becomes a little bit more prevalent with quarterbacks, because it's so hard to keep multiple 4- and 5-star. But Joe Burrow, maybe not even that, but those guys in your program to let them develop.
This has become an traction point for big time, as we're seeing now with quarterbacks, and the receiver group they got this year, today, rivals anyone I've ever covered at Ohio State. Are you kidding me?
Kind of buried the lead on that.
Exactly. I mean, Jackson Smith-Nigba from Rockwall, Texas. Google his highlight tape and settle back
Joy.
settle back with a box of popcorn and stuff because it's going to take a while. You know, Julian Fleming, you know, he's almost raw as in some respects of being, you know, the big time, but his attributes are ridiculous. And you know, the kid from Seattle who is just an incredible human being, and and then Mookie Cooper,
He's also
from
a really good receiver.
Yeah, Mookie Cooper. Nobody got to watch play this year, but Mookie Cooper, he could be the real standout of all of them, and they're all attracted to this offense.
Julian Fleming had 5,000 career yards in high school as a receiver, and there's this idea that he never caught the football.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
He's got 5 targets a game.
He's like the all-time leader in Pennsylvania in yards and touchdowns.
But Brian Hartline,
and he never caught the ball, it's pretty remarkable.
He averaged about 80 yards a catch, I think.
Yeah, he's there. That group is incredible. From top to bottom. And Mookie Cooper, before he missed his senior year, was the number 11 ranked receiver in the country.
Yeah.
So you're talking 4 of the top 12 wideouts, and they're all different, and that's something that Hartline addressed today. They're all different guys. They all play different spots. I think that you could see a guy like Jackson Smith and Jigba be like a Chris Olave type, but he's like Chris Olave in a Michael Jenkins body or something like that.
Yeah.
Like these guys are totally different.
No cookie cutter there.
These guys are all college ready. They're all, you know, college weight. They're all there. They're all going to be here in 3 weeks. And for a wide receiver room that's going to lose Austin Mack and lose Ben Victor and lose C.J. Saunders and lose K.J. Hill, and then you just don't know what you have with Jalen Gill and Jay Harris and Elijah Gardner. Like, this is a huge deal. And the craziest thing about it, in this world especially of internet recruiting, nobody in this group was a concern for Ohio State today. You're talking about 4 of the best players in the country at their position from 4 different states, not Ohio for any one of them, Pennsylvania, Texas, Washington, Missouri, and there wasn't a whiff of concern about, oh, well, what are we going to do if this guy flips? Or, they've all been committed for 6 months. It's like, somebody asked me earlier if Brian Hartline's a closer. I'm like, he's not. He's an opener. And
you heard when I asked him about being I know. Of course, but I just want to see what he would say.
He's not a closer, though. He's a guy that these relationships, and he mentioned it.
He's an embracer.
He said it today that it hasn't happened yet where he's gotten really close to one of these kids and then didn't get him.
Yeah.
And he said it's going to break his heart when it happens. I don't know if it's going to happen because he's been so good at
they zero in, too. That's the other thing.
He also got a lesson that he didn't talk about with Wandale Robinson.
Absolutely.
Didn't finish that one off. And that kind of, you actually wrote a story about that earlier this year before the Nebraska game. That he's
excellent.
That lesson he learned and how he, you know, that he's still early in his coaching career. People were also, you know, asking him about, you know, the way he's rising in the profession, how early it'll be till he leaves. Nobody likes getting those questions, but he certainly made an impassioned plea that he has no intention to leave anytime soon, which will at least maybe appease some of that stuff for the years to come.
Doesn't mean he shouldn't get a hefty raise, though, Gene Smith.
Yeah, but, you know, bottom line, I mean, you look at this recruiting class. I mean, Paris Johnson, I mean, you know, Brian Day expects him to come in and maybe compete right away. I mean, there's a couple of other projects in that offensive line. But, I mean, Paris Johnson, I mean, I'm not saying he was a must-get from Ohio because, like I said, I don't have any dots on any dashes on my map. But that is huge, and that guy, he helped sell the program. His mom did too. You know, she may become a new ambassador for the program, et cetera, because she's an outspoken person, very intelligent and stuff. But then right on down the line, I mean, Ty Hamilton, he was at the at Channel 10 the other night when we were doing a show, Wall-to-Wall Sports, and he kind of doesn't look anything like his brother.
No,
you know, I mean. But the guy, you turn on his video, this guy was a beast this year. The switch came on.
He also looks nothing like he did in March.
Yes.
Which is incredible because he has developed very quickly into a big-time defensive line prospect.
He is a force. And that's what I'm talking about. And you look at the defensive backs they did get, I mean, today. I mean, it's impressive to me, man.
The 3 that's signed, I mean, if we want to talk about defensive backs, I know you want to move along. Those defensive backs, you have a 6'1", 200-pound, 4'3" guy in Legend Cavazos, extremely raw. Okay, this is not a guy that you should count on in the rotation at corner next year. I mean, he's a special teams guy next year. Maybe a guy that can go out there just if you got to put somebody on a speed burner and run down the field, he's that guy. Ryan Watts, 6'3", 195 pounds.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about Tyvis Powell type frame, if you want to compare him to someone, but much more fluid athletically than Tyvis was. And then you have Lathan Ransom, and Ryan Day said that he thinks he's going to be one of the best safeties to walk through this place.
He left nothing to be imagined there.
Yeah.
That's really putting it on him,
Lathan Ransom is everything you want in a defensive back, and he is going to hit people and he likes it.
Yeah.
We're going to try to catch up with him next week in Arizona.
Yeah, we should see
We'll have
Lathan next week.
A lot more practice reports brought to you by Byers Auto out there. Quickly, before we wrap it up, guys, we got to talk about the current team. They practiced Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Ryan Day turned them loose earlier today to go home for Christmas. They're going to get these days off, and then they're going to fly to Arizona on Sunday, where our coverage will pick up at Lettermen Row, and their practices will really begin. Is there anything more important right now than the status of Justin Fields' knee, or where what?
Well, no, but what is the status of his knee is the big question, and you're hearing from behind the scenes it is coming along very well as far as they're concerned. Everybody keeps, Ryan Day expects him to be 100%. I think 100% means 100% effective. That doesn't mean his knee's necessarily going to be 100%, but he expects him to pretty much do what he has to do in that game. But yeah, I mean, how many times I've been on a million radio talk shows, I've been on our podcast with you, et cetera, and Frenchie over there, and you're not really, the only person who really knows how good his knee feels right now is Justin Fields.
Yeah, my knee's 100%.
Yeah.
And it hurts like hell.
I'm 65.
That's as good as it's going to feel.
I'm 65, and I think my right one's about 85%, and my left one's about 75%.
It's as good as it's going to feel, but it is not 100% to somebody else. But for me right now, it feels pretty good.
But I want to tell you something. Justin Fields, I mean, everybody, you want his running ability, if you're coaching him, but his passing ability kind of, I still think he's getting a little bit of short shrift by some people who are eyeballing these two matchups, Trevor Lawrence versus Justin Fields. Justin Fields, I'm telling you, that's the thing that stunned me, really, looking back on it, was how good a passer he was this year as a first-year starter and first year in this program playing with these receivers. And they've had another, 2 or 3 weeks to kind of grease the skids a little bit. I mean, and this is a game where you got to throw the ball. I mean, we can talk about running all we want, but you got to establish your run, but you got to throw the ball. You got to be willing to throw it, and I expect him to be able to play from what I'm hearing.
And J.K. Dobbins, if you're talking about that running game, still continues to get overlooked for awards, and I don't think
everything else.
There will be a more motivated player that I've ever seen heading into the Fiesta Bowl.
Yeah, to win the Fiesta Bowl, Ohio State's going to be able to need to throw the football. I agree with Tim, but to get to that point, J.K. Dobbins has to dominate, and the Buckeye offensive line has to dominate. So, to me, as we head into now, 9 days away from the game, it's all about attitude for this team and understanding that being one of the most dominant teams in modern football history, when you look at all the analytics and all that stuff, and they're being completely viewed as an underdog that isn't going to win this game. And I think that right now, what happens here at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center is all about attitude and figuring out how to put a chip on the shoulder of a team that is physically as good as anybody in the country.
That's just like Clemson. Clemson's got to establish Travis Etienne. I've got Kirk Herbstreit coming up on my podcast next week, and we discussed that. I mean, it's almost more important for their offense to get Etienne going than Ohio State's to get Dobbins, but they're both part and parcel to what both of these teams like to do offensively.
I can't wait for this game.
Yeah, I think this game's a push. The only reason we're talking about favorites and Ohio State opened as I think a 1-point favorite, and then the betting went the other way. That's all that reflects.
Nobody really seems to know what to do with it, which is why Burns said it's going to be so exciting to get there. We cannot wait. We'll be done here at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center and in Columbus. For a little bit. We're heading to Arizona on Sunday. We'll be there as the team arrives. Practice starts. Tim will be joining us later in the week. We'll have all the normal coverage you can expect from his practice report, bowl report. He's going to talk some stuff out there if he can. Everything else going on with this signing period, the Fiesta Bowl, a busy time for Ohio State. We've got it covered for you at Lettermen Row. This has been the practice report brought to you by Byers Auto. That's Tim May. It's Jeremy Birmingham.
Can I interject one thing? You do a hell of a job covering recruiting, by the way,
Timbo.
my brother. Yeah, Frenchie.
And I'm just Austin Ward. Appreciate you guys joining us. We'll see you in Arizona.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe below to get the latest videos from Lettermen Row.
We got Lettermen Live, we've got the practice report, we got rapid reaction. Hey, and we got Buckeye IQ with Zach Bourne.
For sure. We got recruiting breakdowns with Berm. We got whatever you need. Ohio State football and Ohio State athletics, we've got you covered here at Lettermen Row.